Why 90% of my portfolio is American, based in the US actually? This is a question I get a lot because I've got a lot of French copiers on eToro, a lot of European followers, and I want to talk about that today. Hey, I'm Gauthier. I'm a financial analyst and portfolio manager on eToro. I have around 300K assets under management right now on eToro, and I get this question a lot because a lot of you guys are French or European or whatever, and 90% of my portfolio currently is American. So I think 50% is based in the New York Stock Exchange, and 40% are quoted on the NASDAQ, which is in California. Um, I think otherwise 7% is based in the London Stock Exchange, and 1.5 in Euronext Paris. Um, and the rest is like 4% cryptocurrencies, so not quoted on any regular exchange. Why is that? Well, it's a matter of personal preference. A few years back, I used to have more European stocks, but the US was always the core of my portfolio. I think it comes down to a few different reasons. First, I think geopolitically, the US have um, a very good stance on the global scale, and they tend to have a lot of resources thanks to that pole position they have in the world. And this comes down also to the second factor. I think the US is very attractive to very talented people all over the globe. And so, the best engineers in India, they want to come to the US because that's where they will have the best salaries and the best quality of life. And also, they want the best future for their kids or something like that. So, the US is very attractive for every country around the globe, maybe except for Europeans. Sometimes they don't want to go to the US, but even though I think a lot of Europeans still go to the US and are very successful there. So that plays into this very strong economy and stuff. And also, they have a very liberal policy for companies compared with Western countries. So, like, having a business, creating a business, administrating a business is easier in the US, and the taxes are almost always lower than most European countries and Japan and a lot of even developing nations. So I think for companies, being in the US is a huge advantage. And so when US companies are competing against European companies, for example, I think the US companies will win 9 times out of 10. And that's why 90% of my portfolio is in the US. I also think, thanks to all these factors combined, the US are at the forefront of AI, for example, and this will derive most of the economic growth in the next 3 years, at least in the tech sector. You can see a lot of tech giants coming from the US, not so many coming from Europe, some coming from China, like ByteDance or Alibaba or stuff like that. But coming from Europe, you have Spotify. I can't even think of another one. I know there are many, but not that many compared with the US. So they just have more innovation, less regulation, better profits. Also, I think there's a mercato for CEOs and stuff like that. CEOs tend to change companies in the US. I think there is a better corporate governance, and so more upside for the shareholders. In France, for example, the CEOs, they tend to be guys coming from inside the companies that stayed there for 15, 20 years, becoming higher tier manager over time, and then stepping up and becoming the CEO. In the US, you tend to have more MBA CEOs, more professional CEOs that are doing business administration from the start and then changing companies instead of going like 20 years in one company and maybe changing one or two times in their career. So yeah, I can expand on that a lot. I think there are yeah, a huge number of factors, but overall comes down to geopolitics, growth. I think most of the growth comes from the US. Also migration. All the highest competitive people want to go to the US. They have a strong market inside of the US. They now have a better fertility rate than Mexico, so they still have a lot of demographic growth as well. I think the US is just great, and I want to have that upside in my portfolio. It's a bit riskier, but it's also I'm young. I want to take risks now. I don't want to wait. So I think the US needs to be a big part of a portfolio, even if you're European or something. So let me know if you agree, if you have any question, if you disagree. I want to hear your thoughts.